Yes, we are live now.
All right, and do we begin now?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So, good evening, everyone. I am Sanskriti, the senior member at Girl Up Delhi University. Girl Up Delhi University is a club in the Girl Up campaign chain, an initiative by UN Foundation. Girl Up has developed the leadership skills of 58,000 girls through 3,300 clubs in nearly 120 countries, inspiring a generation of girls to be a force for gender equality and social change. We at Girl Up Delhi University aim to give girls the resources and platform to start a movement for social change.
Hello, this is Vaishnavi Agnihotri. I am an activity associate from NSS IIT Bombay. The National Service Scheme, NSS IIT Bombay, is the largest student volunteer body serving 1 million plus people nationwide in the area of environmental protection and community service. NSS IIT Bombay conducts various activities on a day-to-day basis with the motivation of bringing about positive and impactful change in society. This session is a part of our flagship event, Flair, Reimagining Society, Redefining Lives.
I welcome everyone who is here with us today on this Sunday evening. This webinar, Let's Talk, period, is being presented to you by Gaurav Delhi University in collaboration with NSS IIT Bombay, the topic of which is Conquering PCOS and Busting Menstrual Hygiene Myths. In the last several years, we have been witnessing a steep rise in the number of women presenting with PCOS. Also, as we're celebrating PCOS Awareness Month from 1st to 30th of September, we take it as an opportunity to discuss and create awareness about it. So, our guest speaker, Dr. Anjali Kumar, will be speaking and discussing this topic. It is my privilege and pleasure to welcome her on this platform. Dr. Anjali Kumar is a renowned obstetrician and surgeon with over 29 years of experience. Also, the founder of Maitri, a platform focusing and discussing on women's health issues and gynecology issues. She's counted among one of the most experienced obstetrician, gynecologists, and laparoscopic surgeons in Delhi NCR. Once again, a very warm welcome to you, ma'am.
So let us begin with our session. This talk is based upon two important factors, that is PCOS and menstrual hygiene. So both of them influence the women's health in a lot of ways. So firstly, we'll be discussing about PCOS, and then we'll heading on our discussion towards menstrual hygiene. So ma'am, it's a request to you to give a brief introduction about what is PCOS, what are the causes and symptoms of PCOS to our audience.
So, hello everyone, and first of all, thank you very much for inviting me over, and it's a pleasure for me to be talking on behalf of Girl Up University and the NSS IIT, and I frankly came to know so much about the Girl Up today, that it's such a big organization from the UN Foundation. So I feel honored to be part of your initiative. So, as you said, that this month is marked world over as the PCOS Awareness Month. And PCOS is something which is now taking the shape of a gynecological pandemic or an epidemic. Let's put it like this. So, it is so very common that nowadays it is affecting almost 1 in 3 to 5 women. I'm saying 3 to 5. At some places it could be 1 to 3, 1 in 3 women. Some places it could be 1 in 5 women. So much is the proportion of women suffering from PCOS. So it's actually reaching the epidemic proportions. So now let's understand, why has PCOS become so common here? So 20 years back, nobody was talking about PCOS. When I was studying my post-graduation, which is about 30 years back, we barely studied a small chapter on PCOS in our textbooks. And today, in my OPD, every day, I see at least 10 new patients of PCOS. I mean, old patients are much more, 10 new patients. Now, that is a big number. That means something drastically has happened in today's world, which is making our girls become more prone to PCOS. So, as the name suggests, PCOS stands for Polycystic Ovary Syndrome. So, people generally have a misconception whether it is PCO or it is PCOD or it is PCOS, whether it is polycystic ovary or disease or syndrome. But I want to tell all of you it's one and the same thing. So let's not confuse it. Let's call it PCOS because it is not the ovaries. The entire problem is deep inside. The polycystic ovary is actually just the tip of the iceberg. There's a bigger problem which is happening inside, which is making a woman develop these symptoms. In fact, we are only seeing the symptoms like acne, hair fall, and other things, but the actual problem is, developing inside. So it is, let's call it as polycystic ovarian syndrome because it's actually a bigger story which is happening inside. So polycystic ovary typically presents in women with irregular periods, with weight gain, with difficulty in losing weight, with a lot of acne on the face or on the body, with a lot of increased body hair, and that too typically at sites which are typically seen in male. So it's like a male pattern hair growth on the body. So which is typically on the sides or on the upper lip or on the chin, on the upper chest, back, arms, So it's like, that's why it is the male pattern hair distribution in the body. Then, of course, for women who are trying to become pregnant, they find it difficult to conceive. So they have infertility. And in extreme cases, it can cause diabetes, pre-diabetes, hypertension, and a lot of other things, and even endometrial cancer. So the story is not that simple that it is just restricting to the polycystic ovaries. So coming to what causes polycystic ovary, now it is still an enigmatic disease. There's still a big enigma about the polycystic ovary, that what has suddenly happened in last 20 years that so many women across all geographical boundaries, it's India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, up to US, everyone is talking about PCOS. That means something has happened in our lifestyles which is making our women prone to PCOS. So yes, of course, broadly dividing the causes as number one is the faulty dietary intake. Now, it could be faulty dietary choices. And secondly, the availability of food, which is rich in refined processed sugars, rich in trans fats, the food which is available all the time. Now, this is very, very important to understand. Now, we no longer finish our dinners at 8 o'clock. We have food which is available by Zomato and Swiggy at 2 o'clock in the middle of the night. So the food which is available all the time, which is accessible all the time, which is affordable all the time, which is most of the people are able to afford a burger or a Domino's pizza or which is available, affordable, and accessible all the time. Then, of course, we all are increasingly becoming sedentary, either by choice or because of the circumstances. Most of the times we are working, we are studying, so we get free by about 8 or 9 o'clock in the night. By that time, we have no energy to go and do some exercise. On top of that, there are no parks available, there are no gyms available, there's no money to pay the gym membership or whatever. The reasons could be multiple. So we are increasingly becoming more sedentary. At the same time, we have no avenues for the increasing physical activity in our lifestyles. So about 20 years back, people used to work in their households. People used to, clean up, mop, do the dishes, wash the clothes. They used to walk up to the markets. They used to walk up to the colleges or schools. I remember as a child, I used to walk up to my school 5 kilometers each side, which means by default, I was walking 10 kilometers every day and happily, we used to do that. But today, kids are not going, they're not walking. So, the problems are multiple. And then on top of that, there is increased stress, increased worry, the pressure, peer pressure, expectations, excelling, trying to excel everywhere. Then very, very important reason of PCOS is that we are compromising on our sleep. All the time we are sitting on unproductive social media, on Netflix, WhatsApp, Instagram, spending time endlessly, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the night. There are people who tell me that they sleep at 3 o'clock in the middle of the night and they get up by 12 o'clock the next day. So the moment we sacrifice our sleep, we do not sleep according to what is known as a circadian rhythm. It disturbs the hormonal clock in the body and puts ourselves to the risk of hormonal imbalance. So, bad diet, sedentary lifestyle, lot of stress and worry, and poor quality sleep. And of course, a lot of deficiencies because of bad food. So, together, they increase the possibility of PCOS.
Could you also tell
That
us?
was really,
Sorry,
yeah,
Vaishnavi.
Sanskriti, go.
So, well, I just want to tell that many people have joined the YouTube live, almost 40, 50 plus, and people are still joining in. So it would take a little bit time. Also, I wanted to know, on what different body organs, how would PCOS affect? We know it affects the ovary directly. What about the other body organs?
Yeah. So I said that the story of PCOS is not just confined to the ovaries, it's a bigger thing. The ovaries are probably just the tip of the iceberg. So, yes, it causes irregular periods, acne, hair fall, increased hair growth in the body. It causes, or rather, it is the insulin resistance which causes PCOD, and that leads to weight gain, that leads to difficulty in weight gain, that leads to infertility, that leads to pre-diabetes, diabetes, hypertension, increased incidences of cardiac problems, sleep disturbances. Is something known as sleep apnea, where the person is not able to breathe during the sleep and suddenly wakes up. So these are very, very dangerous things which can happen with PCOD. And it's very, very important that we diagnose these women, we take care of these women, and we work at eradicating the root cause of what causes PCOS.
Okay, so that were really something that we didn't know. And as you talked about diagnosis of PCOS, so we have always talked about the symptoms like acne, hair fall, development of facial hair like this. So how can we diagnose? What are the various techniques of diagnosis of PCOS and something about the treatment?
Yeah. So it's very, very important to diagnose PCOD. So just because somebody is having irregular periods does not mean that she is having PCOS. She could be having thyroid, she could be having other problems. Just because she is having acne, no other problem, doesn't mean that she is having PCOS. Just because she is obese doesn't mean that she has PCOS. So, in fact, on Maitri, we've done videos when we are talking about lean PCOD, we're talking about diagnosing PCOD correctly. It's very, very important to diagnose it correctly. Number one, if we do not diagnose it correctly, that means we might land up into all potential complications of PCOD. And secondly, if we are unnecessarily labeling a woman PCOS also, then also we are causing a lot of psychological, uh, you know, uh, damage to the psyche. So it's very, very important that we diagnose it correctly. So worldwide, there is a criteria by which we diagnose or confirm if a woman has PCOS. Now, this is known as Rotterdam criteria. This basically takes into account three things. Number one, if she has irregular periods. So medically, it is a sign of irregular ovulation in the body, which means that she is not ovulating properly. So that's number one. Secondly, if she has on the ultrasound showing multiple cysts. Now, we have a proper medical definition for this, that we should have at least, about 12 to 20 follicles in each ovary measuring 2 to 9 millimeters. So this is a definition which your doctor would know. So if your ultrasound is saying that you have PCOD. And the third is if you have symptoms of male hormone excess in the body. Now, medically, we call these as androgens. So, how do we know if you have male hormone excess in the body? Is by two things. Number one, if you have those features like acne, hirsutism, and hair fall, Or if somebody has done a blood test, and on blood test, we find out that your male hormones are in excess in your body. So out of these three criteria, which is irregular periods, second ultrasound, and third is androgen excess in the body, if any two are positive, this confirms the diagnosis of PCOD. Which means if you have irregular periods and the ultrasound saying that your ovaries are polycystic, yes, you have polycystic ovary. This means that even if your ultrasound is fine, but if you have irregular periods and you have acne and hair fall, you still have PCOD. So there are a lot of people who come to me and saying कि नहीं नहीं मेरा तो ultrasound बिल्कुल ठीक है. I'm not having PCOD, but I tell them if you have irregular periods, but if your body is showing acne and hair fall, or maybe increased hair growth in the body, which is known as hirsutism. So on Maitri, we are soon coming up with a video where we talk about hirsutism. So please stay tuned for that when we explain what can we do about that. So if you have hirsutism, if you have irregular period, but even if the ultrasound says that your ovaries are fine, you still have PCOD. So broadly, 2 out of these 3 criteria confirms the diagnosis of PCOD.
Like now that we know about like certain diagnoses about like we know like basic about PCOD, could you tell us like how like what steps can we take to prevent this? Like especially as like staying at home and then like being concentrated, are like certain measures we could take up?
So we need to be aware of this, that I always tell this to all my patients. We need to do that introspection. Why is it 20 years back, PCOD was not there? Why is it that our mothers or our grandmoms never had PCOD? I'm sure you all would have seen in your families, your grandmom, your nani or dadi never had to go for those waxing or threading sessions as we all need to go. They hardly had any hair on their body. They hardly had pimples. They had a nice crop of hair on their head. They never had irregular periods. They never had trouble conceiving a baby. So something has gone wrong. Even till today, if you see a poor woman who's coming from a poor strata of society, you would hardly see any hair on her body. You will see a nice, big, thick hair on her scalp. She would never, ever complain of having irregular periods or difficulty in conceiving a baby. Now, this means that there is something which is right in the lifestyle of your grandmom and also right in the lifestyle of that poor woman, but probably wrong in your lifestyle, which is making you prone to this. There's no problem with the genetics, by and large. Had it been like this, your grandmom should also have had a PCOD. Your nani or dadi should also have had a PCOD. If there was problem in the city of Delhi or Gurgaon or maybe Bombay, then even a poor woman should have had a PCOD. But she doesn't have it. So that means there's something which is going wrong in the lifestyles of urban modern women, which is making us prone to the PCOS. So once again, coming to the diet, your mom or grandmom or nani or dadi never had Swiggy or Zomato at their disposal. They never had Domino's. They never had McDonald's. They never had pizzas. They never had burgers. They never had kurkure or chips or namkeen or whatever. Even a poor woman today does not have money to buy all this. That's where their diets are good. They don't buy anything fancy. They always eat their meals in accordance with the circadian rhythm. Now, this is very, very important. Eating meals at the right time, not eating your meals in the middle of the night, not staying up late in the middle of the night. I understand when people are staying up in the hostels, you don't have access to good food, home cooked food. So, unfortunately, you have to be relying onto all these models of eating. But first of all, is important that you need to be understanding that this could be the reason of PCOD. Second is, by and large, women in the olden times were physically very active. And there was a lot of physical activity in the house, even till today. The poor woman who comes to your house to work has enough physical activity in her life. She doesn't have to go in for a yoga class. She doesn't have to go lift and weights. She doesn't have to join a gym. Still, she doesn't have PCOD. Why is it that woman who's struggling and going to gym all the time, trying all kind of fancy diets, still has PCOD? That means there's something more to this. Then third, very important, we all are really, really stressed, stressed of excelling at the workplace, in our studies. I understand, your grandmom never had that kind of a stress. The poor woman who comes to your house doesn't have a stress of excelling, giving an entrance examination, trying to find a good job, making a nice presentation, staying up in the night all the time. She doesn't have those stresses. But we need to understand, if we have those stresses, how do we and what do we do to mitigate those stresses? Now, this is entirely in our hand. The situation is not in our hand, but our response to that situation is definitely in our hand. Then sleep timings. Just think of it. When did your mom sleep? When did your grandmom go to bed? 9, 9:30, max 10 o'clock. When does the maid who comes to your house when does she sleep? 9, 9:30. What time does she get up? So we need to be wise enough to introspect and observe. Why is it that that woman 20 years back never had PCOD? Why is it that poor woman who comes to my house to work does not have PCOD? There has to be something common in these two groups, which is not there in my group. Once we've identified and understood, then we will be able to mitigate all those. Once we've identified that, we can definitely work about it. It's just about making the right dietary choices, just trying to do that extra physical bit and making sure that you sleep. I mean, it's so funny that in my prescription every day, I have to write कि आप रोटी सब्जी खाया कीजिए, थोड़ा हिला डुला कीजिए, रात को 9 बजे सो जाया कीजिए, सुबह 5 बजे उठ जाया कीजिए. This is something which I have to write in a prescription. Just imagine, so much we have taken ourselves for granted. I understand, you have to study, you have presentation, but you have to understand that this is not in accordance with our circadian rhythm. Probably the work which I'm trying to do in the night, I can get up early in the morning and do it. I can go for a run in the morning. Maybe, I can get access to those eateries which provide the healthy food, which provide us lots of fruits, a lot of vegetables. You will need to make that effort to make sure that you get the right kind of diet. It's not that difficult to do.
Honestly, when you said that part, right, like how a grandmother and mother, they don't usually have as much body hair compared to us. That was like a total shock, because the whole time when I used to ask my mom, ki, you don't have to go for waxing, you're so lucky. And when I see my grandmother, she has like beautiful smooth legs, like someone had recently got waxed or something. And they would always reply, oh, they would just say it's because of the geographical region we came from and stuff. And I was like, then why do I have hair? That kind of answered my question.
Yep.
So Vaishnavi,
as simple as that. It's as
Exactly, it's
simple.
the same with me.
So, by and large, as a generation, we are becoming more hairy and hairy. Of course, there are a lot of other reasons also. We were exposed to the diet, which is not a very healthy, adulterated is a big word. It's not a very nice diet, the kind of milk which we are getting, the kind of non-vegetarian stuff which we are getting. It's not as organic and as pure as it was 20 years back, but still a lot can be done at our end also. Need to put someone on mute.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, even I face the same problem of having hair, and my granny never does. So I wanted to ask, are there any specific diet recommendations? Like, are there any certain food that help to prevent PCOS or certain things like that? Or there are certain food that are very harmful for our health? Of course, you mentioned about the junk food and all, but are there any specific recommendations that PCOS patients should not eat these foods or something?
No, none. Remember that. What did your grandmom have? What does that poor woman who comes to your house to work, does she have any fancy food? Just because she does not have fancy food, that's why she's healthy. So you need to be taking food which is in as natural form as possible, in as unadulterated form as possible. Remember, we must be eating food which is as close to what God has made for us. I'll give you a simple example. If we have wheat and we make a roti out of it, it's perfectly all right. But if we have wheat wherein we process it in a factory, make some nice cookies out of it, obviously it's not good. If we have mangoes, we can have a mango every day, 1 or 2 or 3 mangoes every day. It's perfectly good. It's actually very healthy. But if you make a mango jam out of it, if you make some mango nice fancy ice cream out of it, obviously it's not that good. So the poor woman relishes her mangoes. Your grandmom relished her mangoes. And what we eat is mango ice cream, mango tarts, mango souffle. I don't know, what do we call it? Is it souffle? Yeah. So that's where is the difference. So remember, no processed packaged refined food, less of refined sugars, less of fructose in diet. Now we have enough scientific studies which actually link the use of fructose, high fructose diet. And fructose is something which is conveniently hidden in a lot of commercial foods like cakes, pastries, colas, even breakfast cereals. We patronized Kellogg's, Chocos. Nobody patronized or marketed our poor paratha and poha and upma and idli. So it's high time that we start patronizing them back again. And I always tell this to everyone. It's much better to have a nice, solid paratha than having that skimmed milk along with whatever oats and Kellogg's and everything. So remember, anything, any ready-to-eat thing which comes in a packet is not good. Something has been added to that food to increase the shelf life of that food. So stay away from that. Make sure that you buy your food fresh, cook it afresh. Don't microwave it. Preferably do not store it in the fridge. And so eat it in as simple, natural, and unadulterated form as possible. And otherwise, you can have everything. Like I said, you can have roti, chawal, paratha, biryani. Everything is fine as long as you cook it afresh. There's no problem. But anything which comes in a packet is not good.
Okay, now we kind of know things that we have to avoid and to not eat. Now I have this question, are there some sort of yoga asanas or exercises that we can do to prevent PCOS? Not cure completely, but sort of prevent it.
So I would say any exercise is good. So how does exercise helps in PCOD? So number one, exercise is known to improve the insulin sensitivity. So let me just tell you a little bit about what is insulin. So insulin is basically a hormone which is released in our body by a gland called pancreas, and it is basically required for the uptake of sugar into the body. So when we eat something, immediately the blood sugar levels goes up in our blood. So it is the pancreas which releases the insulin, which leads the sugar to move from the blood vessel to the cell. But in case somebody is repeatedly having bad food, now this is leading to high levels of sugar in the blood. So the poor pancreas also becomes very tired. कि बस अब हो गया, मुझसे नहीं हो सकता. So the insulin levels go up and up and up. So this is where the insulin now is not able to act, and it is not able to let the glucose move from the blood vessel to the cell. This is known as insulin resistance. So the insulin is not able to work in the body, and the insulin levels go up, the blood sugar levels go up, and these high insulin levels then stimulate the ovary to become bulky. So when you exercise, it helps to improve the insulin sensitivity, which means the insulin is able to work well. When you exercise, you develop what is a good muscle in the body. So the other day, I think the last video which we did on Maitri was talking about lean PCOD. So all of us, even if we are lean, we still have more fat in the body and less muscle in the body. We all need to understand that all of us, even if we are lean, we tend to have a little fat on our bellies. Now, this is something which is bad. So when you exercise, it takes care of the belly fat. It improves the muscle ratio in the body. So exercise is very important. Now, any exercise. It could be running, it could be gymming, it could be yoga, it could be dance class. It has to be any exercise which is sustainable, which is a happy exercise. Now, this is very important. If you go to the gym with a very heavy heart, कि भाई ये तो जबरदस्ती जाना पड़ेगा, तो आप 2 दिन जाकर अगले दिन बंद कर दोगे. If there is any exercise which you can see yourself doing even 5 months later, even 1 year later, now that's the right exercise for you. For me, I love yoga and I love to do yoga, but for someone else, it could be running. For someone else, it could be a dance class. For someone, it could be swimming class. So you need to find out what is it which works best for you. Of course, in PCOD, we always talk about a strength training. So strength training is something where you develop muscle in the body. Now, strength training does not mean necessarily-
Could you please mute? There are some disturbances.
So the strength training does not necessarily needs to be with some weights. You can use your body weight also to do strength training. Now, people who do yoga, they know that it can be a wonderful tool to do strength training. Right from the Surya Namaskar to various poses where, we work on the core. It can be a wonderful strength training tool. Now, yoga has a little more advantage because when you do yoga, you do breathing exercises, pranayama. It is known to reduce the stress levels. It is known to reduce the cortisol levels and hence reduce the PCOD. So yoga is a wonderful package. But for all those people who do not like yoga, please do anything with what you like, anything to keep you physically active. Please do anything.
Okay, so that was really amazing and a really insightful session. We all learned a lot about what is PCOD and how to prevent it. I'm sure our audience also had a deep insight about all those things. So now we'll head up to our discussion about menstrual hygiene. So, and we'll also deal with some misconceptions related to periods. As we all know, hygiene is a very important factor which affects our health. And when the question comes about menstrual hygiene, it becomes even more crucial. So, ma'am, what is the significance of menstrual hygiene and what are the complications that may arise due to improper care of hygiene?
So, needless to say, menstrual hygiene is important, and all of us do take care of it. All of us do try to buy good pads, and people try tampons and other stuff. So, it is important because in case we are not careful about it, the person might land up into some infections, which can lead to pain, fever, infertility later on, chronic pain, lower abdomen. So menstrual hygiene is very, very important. But it is so very unfortunate that people, even till now, do not have access to the right menstrual hygiene products. We are staying in a place where we have the access and the availability and the resources to buy all this. But there are a lot of places in our country where people have no access to all this. People do not have awareness of all this. People even till now use rags, old newspaper, leaves and ashes and what not for their menstrual hygiene. And it's actually so very unfortunate that even till today, after so many years of independence, we are still struggling with something as basic as this. So I know this is something which has to come from all the stakeholders, including the role of the grassroots level workers, the government, the infrastructure, the supply chain. Everything has to be good. But first and foremost, we need to be making our girls aware about this. With the internet now coming in, we hope that girls who are staying up in these smaller towns also will have access to the right information. I feel so happy when people, sitting in remotest corners of the country actually messaged me saying that how this information helped them when they had no access to a good medical care. So we need to be creating platforms where we disseminate the right kind of information to people. That's number one. Then coming to the kind of menstrual hygiene products, like I said, we are privileged. We are staying in a city which is a metro city. We have all kind of fancy things available. We have different kind of pads, which are long pads, short pads, with wings, without wings, day pad, night pad, perfume pad, not perfume. You name it, and we have all kind of fancy things available. But I just want to tell you few things which you should know when you choose a pad. We have now pads available, we have tampons available, we have menstrual cups available. So how do you choose what you have to choose? So you need to understand, when you use a pad or a tampon, it basically soaks in the blood. While when you use a menstrual cup, it collects the blood. So that's the basic difference. Now, when something is used to soak the blood, when that soaked tissue, it's a cotton-based tissue thing which is now soaked blood into it. When it comes into contact with the air, there is a lot of smell there. It causes a lot of rashes, and plus the disposal of a pad and a tampon is a big environmental hazard. Most of the components in that pad and the tampon are actually the non-biodegradable. It is said that a tampon or a standard tampon or the standard pad takes about 500 years for it to be completely disintegrated into the environment. Now that's a big, big problem. An average woman uses about 5,000 pads in her lifetime. Imagine half the population of the world using and creating an environmental load, a carbon footprint of 5,000 pads in a lifetime. So much is the load to be disposed of. That's a big problem.
There is
Harshita, could you
some
could you mute yourself? Harshita,
मेरे वाला तो वो तो
can
होंगे
someone
ना ठीक
please
है भाई
mute
नीलम ने
Harshita?
दिखा लेंगे बच्चा साला कर लेंगे तो नीलम को हमने तो दिखाई कौन कुछ भी
The moderator, could you mute Harshita?
तो फिर उन्हीं तो बोला था नहीं कि भाई आप अपना अपना लेवल देखकर क्यों दिखाया कोई करा नीलम सकल मेरी बात
I'm sorry about that.
It's okay, I understand. So yeah, we were talking about the difference between this. So I really feel a menstrual hygiene product has to be the person friendly, it has to be environment friendly, and of course pocket friendly too. So when we speak about the menstrual cups, it scores over all these pads and tampons completely because it is person friendly, doesn't create any odor, doesn't cause any rashes. It's very pocket friendly. A good menstrual cup can last for about 6-7 years, just costs about 400, 500 years, 400, 500 rupees. It's environment friendly. You just have to collect it and sort of, rinse it in water and then reinsert it again. But the problem is, I have seen in our country, we do not encourage our women to explore themselves down there. I've seen so many girls or women who are not comfortable putting something inside. That's why tampons are also not very popular as compared to pads. So number one, I would say do whatever you are comfortable with. Just because I'm saying doesn't mean that now you have to start doing this. At least start exploring yourself, start making yourself aware, start reading about it, and start trying. If you have to try using a menstrual cup, doesn't cost much, maybe 500 rupees. You need to use 2-3 different types of brands to find what is the right size and the right fit for you, and try if you feel happy about it. Most of the women within 1 or 2 cycles are very, very comfortable using a menstrual cup, and they do not usually feel the need to go back to the pad. So coming to the pads also, if you feel, no, I'm not the tampon or the cup types, I still want to use the pad, try and use a pad which is a biodegradable pad, which means that the carbon footprint that you are generating is much lesser. You just have to remove the plastic wrapper and just put it in the soil and just cover it. Probably after 5 or 6 months, it is going to just disintegrate there. Now we have a lot of companies who are actually making the biodegradable pads, but the problem is they are little costly as of now. And these pads may not be really available in smaller towns, but now with the internet and the e-commerce and all those things, probably they should be more accessible. But first and foremost is that you need to be making yourself aware as to what are the methods which are available.
Like honestly, about situation of the menstrual cup, like a few months ago, I ordered one for myself, but then my mom made me throw it out, telling that it would break my hymen and stuff about the whole word. She gave me like a whole lecture about virginity, and like this is like not only me. I've seen this like very prominently in my family, or like most of the families in India. They're very reluctant to use menstrual cups. Like they have many myths around it, telling that it's not. Like you might lose your virginity, stuff like that. They have. So like, why do you could you like bust like a few myths regarding it?
So I want some hands up. How many people here think that virginity is about hymen? I want some people to raise hands. I want everyone to switch on their video mode. Let's see how many people raise hands. Is virginity about hymen? I just have one answer. I want somebody saying something. Do we all agree on this? Is virginity only about hymen? So, virginity is definitely not about hymen. First of all, hymen is just a physical thing. If you're mentally with someone else, even if you've not done physically anything, it is, you've sort of lost your mental virginity. So virginity is not about just hymen. Hymen is just a physical thing which is there. And in many women, it may not be there also. In many people, it may just get torn by some physical activities also. And whom do you have to prove your virginity to? If you have to prove your virginity to your future husband, how do you ask your future husband to prove his virginity to you? Can I get some responses on this? How many people think that they will be able to ask their future husbands to prove their virginity to him, to you? If not, then nobody has a right to ask you to prove your virginity to him by saying whether you have a hymen or not. So let that part be very, very clear. Now, coming to whether the menstrual cup can break your hymen or not. Yes, of course, in case you use a larger cup, and if you have a very flimsy hymen, if you push it inside, there is definitely a possibility that your hymen might get broken. So if you're too much about your hymen, you're too worried about your hymen, you need to understand that it can break your hymen. But then ask yourself this question once again. Is virginity about hymen? No, it is not. And by the way, we have nowadays different sizes of menstrual cup which are available. One is a very small size, then is a medium size, and then we have a bigger size. So the smaller size is for someone who's not been sexually active. The medium size is for someone who is sexually active but has not given birth vaginally. The large cup is basically for someone who's given birth vaginally. Now, like I said, for someone who has a very flimsy hymen, उसमें तो छोटा cup डालने से भी probably it can break. So if you're too paranoid about your hymen, then yes, of course, you should not be using menstrual cup.
I'm sort of glad like you addressed this issue because this is like very prominent in most of the Indian families, especially from the middle class households. Like, but I'm glad you told this thing.
So I wish you could. I see this is being recorded on YouTube. So please show this to your mom and ask her very openly. How do I ask my husband to prove his virginity to me? I prove it with my hymen. How does he prove it to me? I find everyone suddenly become quiet.
So they are quite really very prominent questions that we need to address sometimes. And the next is about the myths regarding the vaccinations. And there were certain myths that you should not take a vaccination during your periods or something like that. So what are your views on it?
No. You please, all of you, please take your vaccine. I'm surprised how come you people have not taken the vaccine. Please take your vaccine ASAP. It has got no relation with the date of your period. It can be taken at any time of your cycle, even if you're pregnant. Nowadays, we give vaccine to our pregnant patients also. So please, without any doubt, take the vaccine. Period.
So like I wanted to ask this thing also, like due to PCOS, like many like girls and all, they tend to have a lot of acne, hair fall, and then having like excess facial hair and all. So like how do like girls deal with this? Like how do we deal with this? Like because it's not only physical change, it's sort of like an emotional change also. And
Obviously.
how
And most of the time, the fault is not with you. Like I said, nobody purposefully eats a bad diet. It's only when I know a lot of you are staying in hostels, you are staying in PGs, you do not have access to good food. So the fault is not yours. When you get free, there's no space to actually go for a run or do some exercise. Plus, there are so many assignments, there's so much of pressure to excel everywhere. But you need to be finding your way. How do I manage all this? Yes, if you have bad acne, if you've developed hirsutism, it is important to go to a good dermatologist, go to a good gynecologist. The doctor can suggest you a lot of medical treatments which can be applied on face. There are a lot of other medicines also which you can take to decrease all this. But you need to understand, unless and until we take care of the root cause, we are only superficially handling it. If I'm telling you to apply some cream, till the time you apply a cream, it will be fine. But once you stop applying that cream, we'll be back to square one. So both the things need to go hand in hand. You're modifying your lifestyle also, you're taking help of the medications also. So try and do both the things together. Somebody
And
said,
also,
it's advisable to exercise during periods. Yes, of course, it is good to be exercising during your periods also. There's no problem. Please exercise. It's only if somebody is doing yoga. In yoga, there are certain inverted asanas, which we do not recommend during menstruation, something like a headstand or a shoulder stand. That should not be done in periods. But otherwise, all other exercises should be done. But again, the key is, if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling a lot of pain, you can modify your exercise schedule. You can do only as much as is comfortable for you.
okay, also people are feel free to put your questions in the chat box. We'll be addressing them now. Few of them are here. Like, is cancer related to PCOS in any way?
Extremely remote chances. If PCOD is very, very bad, it is known to cause what is known as endometrial hyperplasia, and extremely bad, untreated cases, it can turn into endometrial cancers. But that's like very, very far, stretching it too far. But yes, a lot can be done much before that. So you don't have to think about cancer. It's like one of those rarest complications.
someone has also
Also,
asked, okay, I'm sorry, Vaishnavi.
yeah, okay. So there is one more question, that for a woman who is thin and suffering from PCOS, what dietary guidelines would you suggest?
So once again, someone, and I tell this to everyone, in PCOS, whether it is the obese PCOS or it is the lean PCOS, remember, you should never starve yourself. That diet is bad, where you are starving yourself. If you're trying to do some quick fix diets like GM diet, Atkin diet, keto diet, That's a bad diet. Remember to eat heartily, eat without guilt, but eat what is correct. So if you're feeling guilty after a pizza or a burger, bad thing. If you've had 2 parathas at home with little butter, very good. Very good. By the way, parathas are very good. It's just that nobody marketed our poor paratha.
Yeah, we always market like we always see the ads of those packaged foods and all. So and that ultimately increases their consumption, which is really
So
bad for us.
that soup and salad diet is also very bad. Learn to have a roti, dal, sabji. So if you have dal chawal at night, it's very good. It's actually a very good combination. So even people who are obese, I always tell them, never starve yourself. Hungry nahi hona hai. You don't have to starve yourself. You can eat a lot, still consume a diet which is low calorie diet. It's you can have a good 1400 or a 1200 calorie diet by having a nice good diet. You have lots of fruits, a lot of vegetable, good salads, roti, dal, and you can have nicely 1400 kilocalorie diet also. Somebody who's lean, once again, somebody is thin, their weight loss is not the aim. Rather, we need to maintain the weight. We need to make sure that there are no nutritional deficiencies. So remember, for all of you, dil khol ke khana hai, lekin sahi khana hai. बाहर का नहीं खाना है. फ्रूट्स बहुत सारे खाने हैं, वेजिटेबल्स खूब खाने हैं, लेकिन क्या बोले वो, इज दिस फ्रॉम दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी, कमला नगर मार्केट का खाना नहीं खाना है. I don't know. Is this? Do we have some people from Delhi University here?
Yes, like
Yes,
a lot of them are here from Delhi
So
University.
if you are staying in PG also, insist on your PG that how you want your food to be. Tell them that I want roti, dal, sabji. I want I'm sure wherever you are, you can order lots of foods for you. You can order a lot of vegetables for you. You can make simple dal chawal there. You can make a khichdi. I mean, these are things which are very good. They are nutritious. They give you a lot of good nutrients, minerals. There are a lot of good hormones which require these nutritional things. If you have deficiency of these basic things, your hormones are not going to work. So remember, you must eat nicely, eat at the right time, eat basic things, eat seasonal things, local things, eat something which is made with minimal additives. And that's the kind of food we all are supposed to have.
All right, like anyone in the audience has any questions or any doubts?
So what about the midnight cravings? Somebody asked an interesting question. What about the midnight cravings in the hospital? I want to ask, why are you up in the midnight? Prakriti,
even I had this question. Because we sometimes have in the college life, we usually have to sit like for the project or anything like that. So sometimes it is really bad to stay up in the night and
so try and have once again something which is natural. So for example, you could have some apple or banana or maybe some dry fruits. You can keep a dabba which is full of dry fruits like cashews, almonds, kuch bhi. Peanuts, they're also fine. But anything, once again, which is packaged is bad. And obviously, try and not eat in the middle of the night because that's not good. It disturbs what is known as a circadian rhythm. What is circadian rhythm? Is day and night rhythm. A lot of body processes or body actions, they happen according to circadian rhythm.
Ma'am, I would like to ask a question. I'll just switch on. Hello, ma'am. I actually also follow you on your YouTube channel, so I've seen quite a lot of your videos, and I am genuinely thankful that you post what you do because for a long time I was searching for something which would give me credible information that I could trust, and I'm really glad that Maitri is available for that. I had a personal question. I myself, I'm 19 years old, and I've been having irregular periods for a year and a half now. it started when I was 17, and before that I used to have regular periods, but now it started like getting irregular. And after that, I've had almost 2 or 3 ultrasounds, and I didn't get like diagnosed with anything. But the thing you said about out of 3, which is irregular periods, ultrasound, and the hair growth wala part. So I have 2 things. I feel like I do have a lot of hair growth, and my periods are irregular. Apart from that, I also suffer from like really. I am trying to get back on track with my sleep schedule, and it's a long process, but I'm trying ki thoda jaldi I try to sleep. I have also started like yoga and everything. So the one question that I wanted to ask is it like incurable? Because a lot of times I've seen people that they have and is it completely related with your weight? Because a
No,
lot of people.
no. So let me
Okay.
answer. People who say it is incurable, this is because you've never tried to cure it the right way. If you try and treat it by taking a pill or maybe just applying something for your skin, you are not treating the right cause. Just remember, I told you, why doesn't the poor maid who comes to your house has PCOD? What does she do? So I tell this to my patients. The treatment for PCOD is learn to eat like poor. By the way, poor people never do any dieting. Learn to sleep like poor and learn to work like poor. You will be sorted. आपने देखा कोई पुअर आदमी डाइटिंग कर रहा हो जी? ऐसा होता है कभी? नहीं होता ना? So learn to do that and you'll be fine. And of course, there's some people who have very bad issues. Of course, they need help. Like I said, it has to go, in combination. So if poor people do not have PCOD, that means there is something right which they are doing. Of course, nowadays there are poor people who are moving from B towns to now metros. Now they are getting PCOD because now they are getting exposed to those pizzas and burgers and late night binges and everything. So we all are actually paying a price for being modern in our lifestyles. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
So one more example I would like to give you. Now that's interesting actually. I was in medical college in 1982. I joined my MBBS in 1982. I used to be working up and studying up late at night. But somehow I never had PCOD. No one in my friends had PCOD. That means it's much more than that. There is something which is interestingly happening now. Why is it? I know the sleep is the reason, but we were also up the whole night. We were constantly studying. I passed my MBBS in 1986. Until that time, we were really studying. In fact, when I was doing my postgrad also, that time also. But somehow we never got PCOD. So it's basically a combination of everything, the diet, the exercise. But I remember we used to be walking a lot. Whole day we used to be walking in our college, hospital. I could not afford a car, so we used to be walking for about 5 kilometers from Lady Harding to catch a bus. We used to go in DTC buses and whatnot. So, there are multiple factors which are playing up from all the sides, which are making everyone prone to all this. So see what is that reason which is working up in your life. Try and correct all that. Okay. And I would request, we don't put the personal questions here. Let's talk of something general. And I think we just have about 5 minutes or so more. So let's try and see what all we can do. So I think pandemic and online education made us more lazy. No, it is your attitude which made you lazy. Pandemic has got nothing to do. In fact, there are a lot of people who productively utilize pandemic. This might sound very immodest. I really feel Maitri took birth only because of pandemic. All this time we were so busy that even if I wanted, I could not do it. I am one person who's been standing in OTs and labor rooms. Standing in front of camera was a very new thing for me. And we started this in pandemic. I made sure during this pandemic, despite my hectic work schedule, we exercised every day. We did everything. So don't say that pandemic and online education made us lazy. It is our attitude. I know for all of you, I might sound very upfront and blunt, But I really feel, somehow I need to drive this point in.
Actually, I saw your YouTube video that how your day goes on, in which you like woke up at 3 a.m., then at 5 a.m., then you practice yoga. So it inspired me a lot that you are so busy and in such a hectic schedule also you have time to practice yoga and exercise. So it really inspires people like me who become a sort of procrastinator for exercise and all. So yeah, that was really great.
We all are responsible for our health ourselves. We have no one to blame. We can't say कि pandemic था इसलिए ऐसा हो गया. No, for no one else, it doesn't bother. For me, let's say a patient comes and says, I have PCOD. The moment she steps out of my room, I forget. Who's she? So who's getting impacted? She, not the doctor, not the family member. This is one part we all need to understand very well. It is we who are responsible. It is we who will be impacted if we do not take care of our health. And health is very easy to acquire. It doesn't ask for any fancy or exotic things. It doesn't ask for a fancy gym membership. It doesn't ask for a fancy superfood. Just ask for simple food, good rest, good exercise. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. There is one last question from the chat box. It is, what are the long-term risks of PCOS?
Yeah, so we spoke about it. PCOS is associated with pre-diabetes. It is associated with diabetes. In fact, it is associated with hypothyroidism and hypertension, cardiac problems, sleep problems, endometrial malignancies, infertility. So the list is actually pretty long. But to cut it short, it's very, very important that we diagnose it and we treat it in time to avoid all these metabolic complications. So medically, we call it as metabolic syndrome. So like I said, problem is not just with ovaries. वो तो बेचारी ऐसे ही बीच में फंस गई ovary. But the problem is deep inside. It's just that the symptoms are gynecologic. That is why the person first comes to a gynecologist. But the problem is a hormonal deep problem which is inside. It is almost similar to somebody getting a diabetes.
Like, ma'am, thank you so much for joining us here. And then, like, we all know that you have like a very, very busy schedule, and you still took us time to like brief us about all these things. And we are really glad for YouTube channel too. Like, it provides us a lot of insight and stuff like that. Like, through watching YouTube videos, I came to know about many things that I did not know about my own self. Like, all these years of schooling could not teach me this. Like, your YouTube like just does wonders for me. And I would also like to thank the audience for taking out their time and then showing like so much enthusiasm in the session. And I like everyone was like a great listener and learner. And I hope you all have enjoyed it and have learned something valuable.
So thank you very much. And yes, so thank you very much. And I also felt very happy. I felt actually very wonderful talking to all you young people. And so, yes, we are expanding at Maitri. So please stay tuned. We'll be coming up shortly with contraception series on, on Maitri. We are also coming up with a Hindi channel. So please, share it with your friends and family. And I will be happy to come and talk to you people any further time if you need any assistance from my side. So once again, thank you very much.
Yeah, we welcomed an audience of 325 plus views. So I hope you all got benefited from it. And there's a small announcement about our flagship event there that we'll all see you tomorrow and yet another amazing discussion with Nihal Tauro, who's among the top 5 finalists of the Indian Idol Session 12. It will be on NSS IIT Bombay's Instagram live at 7 p.m. And till then, stay tuned, stay safe. Don't forget to follow our social media handles and subscribe to our YouTube channel, of course, for the rest of the sessions. And not to forget, we also have a number of competitions lined up for you. Check them out on our website, and all the links are available in our bio. Thank you and have a nice day. And thank you so much, ma'am, for giving us the time and the opportunity to interact with you. It was a really great session for me as well. And I hope you also have enjoyed.
Thank you.
Yeah.